What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Mograph. As always, my name's Matt, and in today's video we got Summit 57 weighted object dynamics inside Adobe After Effects. Here's a couple reasons why you should watch this video. A, it's fun. B, it's fun. C, it's fun. And D, it looks sweet. So I put together two very basic examples of what you can do with this effect, and then we're going to go ahead and actually recreate both examples, and it should be a blast, so I hope you guys like it. So check this out. As you can see, we have a cube, and it spins around, but it actually stretches, and it's not like a normal squash and stretch that you would see. It's actually like there's a drag. So we're going to put together a really cool effect today, and this is the most basic example of it. So I hope you can tell that just by looking at this is a lot more of a dynamic animation. So this is something actually I'm going to start including in projects, even if it's just a very subtle touch of this effect. Just getting that little extra stretch really seems to help out what an object or what an animation looks like. And so here is the second little example that we're going to go and recreate, and this one also we're going to make like a cell shading effect on top of this. So both these effects are very easy to put together, but they're very weird at the same time. So I think this looks pretty sweet. It looks like something that you probably didn't get inside After Effects in both manners of the stretching and the cell shading. So we're going to go ahead and jump into After Effects right now and get this video rolling. So I got Adobe After Effects, like the 2014 update or something, so that's why it's all blue and sweet looking and flat. So let's create a new composition, 1920 by 1080, and let's just call this one example 1, because we're going to make the first example. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and trim down this timeline, because 10 seconds is way more than we need. Let's go ahead and create a new background layer. Let's go with a nice blue. And yeah, so we have that background layer. You can name it if you feel crazy. Otherwise, let's just go ahead and create a square. So just hold shift, drag that dude out. I'm going to use my motion script. You can do this without it. It does not matter at all. Just reposition the anchor point in the middle of this object, or actually let's go ahead and put it in one of the corners. Whatever corner you want. I'm going to go and put it in this bottom corner over here, and that's just going to create a nice, easy, funny animation. Hopefully, we'll see. And let's change our fill color to something that doesn't look so trashy. Let's go with yellow. We're going to pretty much make the same example I just showed you. So alright, we got that all set up. Let's go ahead and bring up our rotation properties, our scale properties, and our position properties. If you didn't know, you can hold shift and press all the shortcuts S, P, and R to bring up all of those guys. And let's just set a keyframe and maybe make our scale a little bit less here. Let's call it 83. So we're going to put together just a quick little animation. Let's just drag it forward a little bit, give it some room to breathe, and maybe go forward to about a second. And all we're going to do is just drag our square across the screen, bring up your rotation tool, and rotate this guy. Let's call it... what do we want to call it here? Let's call it to 225 degrees seems good. We'll scale it down a little bit, and then we'll go forward in time a little bit more, rotate it the rest of the way to, let's call it 1 full rotation and 90 degrees, move it over a little bit more, and I guess we'll scale it up just because we have extra keyframes to play around with. We'll grab these keyframes, copy them, and go forward a couple frames here and paste them, and then we'll just have this drop down. So just drop it a little bit just like this, and also rotate it. Just a touch there. Actually, I'll rotate it a little bit more. Let's go to 45 degrees and scroll forward just a little bit more on the timeline and bring this dude just straight up, something maybe around here, and we'll rotate it just a little bit more, I guess. I don't know. I have no idea what this animation is. I had an idea when I started and have since lost that idea. So that looks pretty sweet. Let's go ahead and just add a little Bezier curve to our animation, if I can grab that handle, and we'll just see how this is looking right off the bat. If I can get this guy. It's being all crazy. So we'll just 1 second. What the heck? Alright, well, whatever. We won't worry about that. And I'll just add some basic easing on top of this real quick. And I guess I'll do it on all of them. Just like that. And then grab this one, and I'm going to make this just an auto Bezier one, just so it calculates. So as you can see, we already have a pretty lively animation, I'll call it, just a tumbling little square. He's having more fun than I am, so I'm kind of jealous actually. And as you can see, this looks all right. It's pretty basic animation, kind of fun, I guess, maybe. I don't know what to say. But let's go ahead and make this effect amazing, and we'll give it some dynamics and some weighted dynamics at that. So in your effects and presets, there's a super awesome effect called Echo, which I just recently started playing around with, and it kind of gives your animation an onion skin look if you're used to any kind of frame-by-frame animation. So throw that dude onto your square, and if you scrub back in time, it looks like we actually have a little buddy square that's kind of tagging along, like an annoying little brother, just tagging along with the square, and he wants to have fun too. And yeah, it doesn't look that good. But what you can do with this effect is, first, we can play around with the time. They call it an echo, but really it is like a delay in the time. So if you want to really space it out and have it start 0.3 seconds after the other one, you can start to get complex animations with pretty minimal effort. But let's just not do anything with that right now and actually change our echo operator to maximum, which is going to give that guy a solid color. So as you can see, we now have 2 solid color squares, but only 1 layer. It's amazing, like a magic trick. So let's actually go and make our number of echoes. Let's turn this up, and let's really like crank it and just see, maybe like, I have no idea. Let's call it 15. That seems pretty obnoxiously large amount. So let's also turn this number down to maybe 0.03. And as you can see, our animation is looking sweet. There's all this junk happening. But this is obviously does not look like weighted dynamics, and that would be a misleading title if that's all we are about to do today. So let's go ahead and mess around with our time, our echo time, and see what number works for us. So this does take a little bit of playing. The smaller the number, the closer the echoes will be to your animation, which makes sense. So let's maybe make this like 0.003 and see what we get. Maybe scrub through. And, well, really nothing's happening. They're just sandwiched right on top of here, as you can see. So why don't we go ahead and make this like 0.006. That seems pretty good. And now we have a nice little fan, which is pretty exceptional. Too bad it's about to be winter. So we now have a sweet little animation that seems to be, well, it does just look like a doubled animation. So this is not that cool yet. But let's keep this rolling and see what else we can do to bring this effect together. So when I first had this going, I was like, okay, this is kind of an interesting effect, and obviously you could just turn your echoes up a ton and your number way down and kind of get that look, but it's not quite the same as what the next effect is going to do for us. So if we go ahead and grab a matte choker, which is typically used for green screening, you can actually squish some of these values into each other. So let's go ahead and start messing around with stuff, and I pretty much played around with these properties to see how they affected the object until I just like found a look I was happy with. So I definitely recommend playing around with this and doing a little bit more than these kind of simple examples. So I'm going to just turn this geometric softness up until these edges, as you can see, kind of smooth out. And just with that even, we're starting to get a pretty solid looking effect. So let's turn this up to, make it real smooth. We'll turn it up to 24. It's a little bit fuzzy, but we'll just see. All right, so now we're starting to get a pretty solid stretch. And this is looking now like one object, except for this part back here. So let's go ahead and just take a look at the bad parts. That's the easiest way to fix an animation. If you just go to a part you don't like and kind of tweak that till it starts to look a little bit better. And let's turn our choke maybe, let's see what down does, seems to sharpen it, and up seems to minimize it. So let's maybe turn it up just to something kind of reasonable, a reasonable being 65, because that's the number I've found. And then let's go ahead and turn our gray level softness. What does this do here? See, this is like, it's just kind of fun to play with. So what I did was bad. Let's leave it at 10%. And what was the other one I played around with? I think it was the second choke. And we'll turn this up to, let's call it 0. Let's call it 0. I think, actually no, I'm positive now. I totally forgot what the next effect was. So that was pretty good. I was happy with this effect, and I was like, okay, kind of getting the stretch. How could I smooth this out more? I thought about stacking the matte choker, and then I was like, wait a second, throw back to one of the old summits if you guys ever saw it. We'll use our simple choker. Once again, typically used for green screening. So we'll throw that on there and just go ahead and choke the matte up to, let's see, we'll wait until it smooths out our animation. As you can see, it's actually shrinking when you really crank it up. Let's just turn it down till our edge is smooth of the bad part, and we'll assume the rest is looking pretty good. So obviously you do use a little bit of size on your object, but now if I play this video, we're gonna have a stretchy looking object. So it's kind of like a squash and stretch rig, except it's much more dynamic. It's kind of like jelly. It looks like some of the parts are weighted, and it's almost like I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just a really, really cool effect. I made up a name for it, weighted object dynamics. I kind of feel like that's pretty realistic. So I'm happy with that. As you can see, you can take this effect and do so much more. So why don't we do so much more? We'll just grab our example one in our project manager, copy that guy and paste it. It looks like it's named example 2. How fortunate for us. That is what we're going to be doing. So first, let's go ahead and actually, well, you can either make a circle for this example, or if you're lazy, you can go down into your shape layer properties and just on your rectangle path, just turn your roundness up until it is so high that you have a perfect circle, which is kind of a nice way to cheat it. Put your anchor point in the middle of the object if you would like. Since it's a circle, we're probably not going to be spinning around the edges like we did with the other one. And let's actually just delete all these keyframes because we don't really need them. So with this example, we're going to make a little bounce. Would be fun. And why don't we change the background, because that would be boring just to look at the same thing. Let's go and make this, looks like we settled on pink. We'll keep it on pink. So let's go ahead and make a new color for our yellow circle. Maybe turn this up to the same exact pink as the background. Horrible jokes tonight, just horrible, horrible, horrible. We'll say okay. We got the green circle, and let's go ahead and set a position and scale property keyframe. And then we'll press U just so we see just those two. Go forward in time to, let's call it 2 so I can rhyme. So we'll just drag this guy over. And as you can see, when you drag it, you will get a little bit of the echo delay in there. It's kind of going outside of our circle. And let's also just change our Bezier handles. So now we have a nice little bounce. Let's see how that's looking. Oh, that looks great. And let's go ahead and actually just do one more bounce and maybe fix this Bezier handle so we actually have 2 bounces. So that is looking fantastic. In the middle one, why don't we just turn down our scale, and then we'll just copy the same scale from the beginning over at the end so it's nice and perfect. Now maybe at the top of these 2 arcs, we'll actually scale this down just a touch, just for some interest, and I'll paste that over in the middle of the other one as well. And we'll make these auto Bezier keyframes. What you can do with this is actually just right click this keyframe and go down to keyframe interpolation, and then change it to temporal interpolation auto Bezier, but we just did the little shortcut up there. So let's go ahead and just add some easing to this. It doesn't really matter what you want to do, and we'll just see how this is all looking. So we now have a pretty sweet bounce, it looks like. And it's kind of like a stretchy kind of circle. You could totally do this with a path layer. However, what we're going to do next, you cannot do with a path layer. So let's take a look at what you cannot do with the path layer. What a segue. So right at the beginning, let's go ahead and see if we're happy with our echo. I would say we really don't need as many copies as we have, since it's kind of close together for the speed we did, just with the length of the animation. So why don't we turn this down a little bit, because it's just kind of a wasting computer memory until you have something still kind of smooth. It looks like 8 will work for me, so I'll leave it at 8. On the matte choker, we can go ahead and see how this is all looking. I actually don't see too many problems in here, which is great. So I'm actually going to just say it is fine as is. So let's grab an emboss effect and try to get this cell animation look together. So I'm going to grab the stylize emboss and just drop it onto this panel, and all of a sudden we have a horrible looking object. So let's go ahead and just tweak this, maybe set this to 0 just so it's kind of facing right at the top. Actually, probably not. Let's make it so we get a nice little angle, maybe 193. I like that little rim there. And let's turn our relief. I have no idea. I'm just kind of playing around at this point. But that's kind of how this effect came about. So it was kind of fun. So let's turn our relief to, let's call it 35. So it's kind of sticking out over there. And our contrast, let's see. We should probably make it a little bit more similar color. Let's call it 74, and we're going to blend it with the original. So let's just turn it up until it looks a little bit more normal and not so crazy. So let's turn it up to 76, and now we have like this weird kind of green looking bean thing, and it's kind of a fake shadow, and I really liked that look. It looked like we spent more time drawing it, but we obviously didn't. So the emboss effect, great work. That is total boss effect. Look at that play on words. So we now have this cool little Mexican jumping bean. What else should we add to this? It might be fun to have a little drop shadow on here. So let's grab a drop shadow effect, drop it on there because it's a drop shadow. Ooh, my jokes are terrible tonight. I hope I don't have to listen back to this video and just feel horrible. So we'll turn it to, yeah, I guess 0 looks good. So it's kind of at the top of here, just like a little rim light or something. And let's just leave it default. That seems cool. And so now, in order to get a cool effect, let's go ahead and actually just duplicate this layer. So we'll duplicate it and just change this color to, let's call it purple. And you can do two things. You can either stagger this layer just by dragging it, so it's actually delayed, or you can just change your easing, or you can move your keyframes. You have options here. So I'm gonna actually just change these keyframes a little bit so it's actually in front of my other object. And that looks pretty good. Something like this. So let's check it out. We now have our beans that are jumping around in this cool kind of cell shading look. I'm pretty dang happy with that. Let's go ahead and also add just one more layer. And actually this purple layer looks terrible, so let's change it to something brighter. So it's actually just shades of green in here. So that is great. Let's go ahead, duplicate this middle one and just drag it down to the bottom here. Press U to see all your keyframes, and we'll change the interpolation so it's actually a little bit slower or faster depending on what you're looking for. Yeah, I'm not sure how to do commentary on this video because it was just like a fun effect that I had a lot of fun making. So I was really hoping you guys would also have fun with it. So let me know in the comments below if this was interesting or you found a good use for it in your own animations. I think it is a super fun effect. So let's see. I guess we'll end up going with red. All right, so now we have this animation. It's kind of staggered. It looks all right. I probably could have done a lot better, but this is the gist of it. And as you can see, you can start to really layer this and get this cool kind of stretching look. So when I'm looking at this, one of the things I saw was that sometimes it kind of separates. Like it's not as close as I want it to be, and I want it to kind of look like it's dripping. So let's actually drag this layer. I guess this layer. Yeah, I might have to reorganize it depending on what kind of look you're going for. But I wanted the red one in front. So as you can see, we kind of have like this waterfall, but it almost looks separated right in the middle. So I do not like that. So let's go ahead and actually grab all of these shape layers here and do Shift-Command-C to pre-compose them. We can just call it pre-comp 1 because that seems great. And let's go ahead and grab the wonderful effect, this simple choker, one more time because that always seems to fix the problem when there is one. Throw it on there and just turn it up until you're happy with the look. And there we go. That looks way better. It's now all smooth, almost like a weird bowling pin. And now when we play it back, it kind of has this globby kind of jump to it. And with that nice dark drop shadow down at the bottom, I just pointed at the screen like you guys could see, but with that drop shadow at the bottom, we're starting to get a very cool look. So with cell shading, you can often really see the outline of the edges. Luckily for us, we'll once again hit up the effects and presets and type in find edges, and throw that style onto our effect. That looks bad, so let's just turn our blend with original up until we're happy with it, which is the trend of the day. Let's turn it up to 70, and as you can see, we now have this nice outline on our animation. And there we go. With no time at all, we've created a totally epic cell shading, stretchy, weighted object dynamic animation inside After Effects. And with these two simple examples, I really hope you can apply this to your more complex animations and have a lot of fun with it. Anyway, this was Matt from Mount Mograph. If you liked this video, leave a like. That's how I know you guys liked it. Duh. But thanks a lot for checking it out. And if you would like to see more videos of fun little effects, yeah, subscribe to the channel and I'll keep them coming. Thanks a lot, guys. Peace out.